Hello, friends. In today's story, we saw Jesus behaving in a different way than we're used to seeing. Jesus, in our story today, got mad. I mean, really mad. That doesn't sound like Jesus, or does it? Let's find out. Okay, the story took place in the temple in Jerusalem. Now, we hear about the temple a lot in the Bible because the temple was the most important place for all of God's people. It was the most holy and special place they could ever be. It was a place where they went to be close to God, all right? And Jesus loved the temple more than even the other people of God because guess what? The temple was his Father's house. Remember when he was lost as a boy and Jesus said, "Why didn't you just look here? You knew I would be in my Father's house." So Jesus loved the temple, and Jesus's whole job on earth was to bring people closer to God. So what better place for Jesus to visit than the temple in Jerusalem? But when he went inside, things were not peaceful. Things were not filled with prayer. He didn't see anybody even praying or giving offerings. All he could see were people crowding around, and he heard them screaming and yelling at each other, and he smelled stinky animals that were just walking around everywhere. And Jesus said, "Enough." Jesus turned over the furniture, and he chased out the animals and he chased out the people. And he said, "This is my Father's house. It is not a marketplace." So Jesus saw something that was wrong and he had to make it right. I wonder why he didn't just tap somebody on the shoulder politely and say, "Excuse me, would you mind taking your cow and going home?" No, Jesus didn't have time for that. Jesus had to take quick action. So, to help us figure that out, I brought some things today. I have a bottle. I have a hoop, which is just a circle that's empty. And I have some hex nuts. These are just little pieces of metal that you can get at the hardware store, and they kind of twist onto these other little things called bolts. That's about the extent of my hardware knowledge, so go ask your friendly Ace hardware man. So, I have these things. Now let's try to drop the hex nut in the bottle. That's pretty easy, right? Because the hex nut's here, the bottle's here, boom. All right, so now let's try something different. Let's put the hoop on top of the bottle. We've got to balance it just so. And then we need to put the hex nut on top of that hoop. Now, how is the hex nut going to get in the bottle? There's something in the way. Let's try to change that. Did you see that? I wish I had slow motion. When I banged the hoop really hard and really fast, it went straight in. Do you think we can do it again? Let's try. You put the hex nut up on its side. Not that one. This took a little practice. You've got to balance it just right. Okay, one more time. We'll get it this time, right, friends? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Right in the hole. Okay, now let's see what happens if I try to do it a little more politely. If I try to do it not quite so hard, a little more gently. You think that'll work? Let's try it. Do it slowly. No, That does not work at all, which kind of helps us understand why Jesus just had to clear those people out once and for all and make things right again, because something had gotten in the way of God's people and God. Something had gotten between them. I wonder what gets between us and God. I wonder. Will you pray with me? Dear God, thank you for being close to us. Help us to see when something gets in the way. And help us learn how to move it. Amen. Thanks, friends. Have a great week.